Hello friends! I'm facing my fears of drawing portraits and I'm bringing you along with me as I fumble through it. I think I'm finally starting to figure things out, and in this video I'll show you what made it click. Before I get started, I'd love if you'd like, comment, subscribe, and watch till the very end because it really helps the channel. So I've actually been practicing in the weeks since my last portrait video. Clap for me. Thank you, thank you. Anyway, what really helped is I watched this class by Chris Hong called Level Up Your Portrait Drawings, which had a really helpful section in it about the block-in method. So with the block-in method, you're basically breaking the face down into simplified shapes. Using only straight lines and angles, no curves, you create a map of the face, paying attention to proportions, placement of the features, and how they relate to one another, and identifying the basic shapes of the shadows. Learning this method at this point in my journey turned out to be the perfect next step because I learned about the proportions of the face in the first video I watched. Then I learned about using simple shapes for the overall structure. And those tips came in really handy when figuring out the block-in. So the practice sessions that I did were much less frustrating, and I felt like I was actually making some progress. I even started to feel confident enough to try a couple poses that weren't directly facing the camera. It wasn't a disaster, but I definitely need more practice with drawing faces at different angles. By the way, I'll leave links in the description for where you can find Chris Hong's class in case you want to check it out. So I'm going to be using the same block-in method for this practice session. Here's the reference photo I chose. I chose it because the lighting is good, the shadows and highlights are easy to identify. I also chose it because she's looking straight ahead and I won't have to figure out a complicated head tilt. Although, once I really started to study the reference, it does look like her head is tilted down slightly because her nostrils are barely visible and we can see a lot of the top of her head. So I'm going to have to try to keep that in mind as I draw. The first thing I'm going to do is build a basic framework so I have a general idea of the overall shape of the face and where things should go. This is kind of like the scaffolding that I'll use to build on bit by bit. I can already see that I've made the face too long and narrow, so I need to just adjust the angle of the jawline and move the chin up a bit. Then I need to get the general shape of the hair mapped out. And she's got a top knot. And let's see, her neck is barely visible, which is another reason why I think her head is tilted downward. But I'll get the angle of her shoulders penciled in and just add a couple lines for the shirt. All right, now for the features. Again, I'm going to start with big basic shapes just to figure out the general position of everything as I go along. I don't remember which video it was and who said it, but I watched a portrait demo where someone said something along the lines of just draw the thing, you can always fix it later. Now, as simple and as obvious as that sounds, it unlocked something for me and helped me remove the pressure of getting each line or each shape right on the first try. And with this method I'm practicing, the whole point is to make the marks, make the mistakes, and figure things out bit by bit during the block-in phase, so that it's much easier to finalize the details later on. So rather than trying to get too precise too quickly, I'm just drawing simplified versions of the shapes, then adjusting, moving, and tweaking them as I need to. I imagine I'll get better and more efficient at this process the more I practice, but for now I'm taking the slow and steady approach, making small improvements with each iteration. I think working digitally makes it even easier to take this approach because I can work on each iteration on a new layer using the previous version for reference. So here I'm making darker, slightly more confident strokes and adding in a few more details. I forgot to mention that I'm trying another new pencil here. This one is from the pencil set in the Procreate library, and it's called Scopus. It's soft and smooth with a really fine grain, and I've been using it for all the block-in studies that I've been doing over the last couple weeks. As I mentioned in a previous video, I've been looking for a good pencil for portraits, something that's not too grainy, and I like this one so far. It's very similar to the Waratah brush that I used last time. All right, I'm going to define the hairline a bit more and add a little more detail to the shape of the hair. Okay, I think the nose is too narrow. When I look at the reference, it should actually line up with the inner corner of the left eye. So I'm going to just adjust that. And the mouth isn't quite right either, so I'm just going to tweak that a bit as well. I also want to quickly map out the shading. By the way, I finally figured out that this is a great way to use the stringy bark brush, which is also in the pencil set. When I first tested all the brushes in the new Procreate library, I was a bit baffled by this brush and didn't understand why it would be in the pencil set. But now I realize it works well for quick shading. Of course, it's not as precise as hatching, but it's a passable substitute. All right, so there's my block-in. I decided to finalize the sketch to see how much this method helped me improve. I didn't film this part, but here's the time lapse of me adding the details, figuring out the shading, and making a few last-minute adjustments. Overall, I think this is definitely a big improvement over my last couple portrait sketches. But I can see that the next thing I really need to focus on is my shading technique, to really bring more of a three-dimensional quality to my portraits. I'm still pleased with the progress I made so far though. This is the first time I feel like my sketch actually resembles the reference photo, so I'll take that as a win. If you have any tips or suggestions for good portrait classes or tutorials to watch, please share in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.